I hate to say it, but I just have to let it off my chest. I'm miserable in the UK. After traveling America for months and months, experiencing the excitement, experiencing the amazing people, experiencing the beautiful food, my eyes being opened to real opportunity and real size. Yeah, I'm depressed in the UK, man. I can't do it. The people here are miserable kids. Nobody wants to have a good time unless they're intoxicated in the pub. Yeah. I want to go for cool hikes. I want to go hunting. I want to go and see some really cool stuff. I want to go to a rodeo and watch a bull hit a man. I don't want to walk around talking about football and go into the pub. I don't want to do it. It's the epitome of boring and embarrassing. Americans, send me a lifeline, will you? Help me get back to America ASAP. I can't do it with this country anymore. It's terrible. I'm depressed, mate.
I've got enough retirement now where I can live comfortably, making almost as much retirement security as I did when I
Europe was supposed to be the comfortable place to grow old, while America was the country the headlines told people to fear. So why are retirees from across Europe looking west instead of staying home? What are they discovering after the cameras, warnings, and stereotypes fade away? The answer is hiding in ordinary American life, and once people experience it for themselves, going back can suddenly feel much harder than they expected. America's quiet advantage. Some of the strongest arguments for retiring in America do not come with fireworks, flags, or a postcard view. They arrive in an envelope once a month, printed next to a dollar sign. That is where the picture many Europeans had absorbed about America can start to wobble. Before arriving, the United States is often presented through its loudest problems: expensive healthcare, political tension, crime headlines, or the idea that ordinary life must be brutally costly. Then people actually spend time here, pay for groceries, run the washing machine, cool the house, fill the car, and begin comparing those routine expenses with what they were paying back home. One surprisingly important example is electricity. According to Eurostat, the average household electricity price across the European Union was about €0.29 per kilowatt hour in the second half of 2024. Germany was among the highest at roughly $0, 39 per kilowatt hour, while Ireland, Denmark, Belgium, and Italy also sat well above many American rates. By comparison, US Energy Information Administration data put the average American residential electricity price in 2024 at roughly 16 cents per kilowatt hour. That gap is not some abstract economic statistic when retirement income is fixed. It is the dishwasher running after dinner, the dryer finishing a load of towels, the oven staying on for Sunday lunch, and the lights remaining on without somebody mentally calculating the meter like it is a taxi stuck in traffic. For someone coming from Berlin, Copenhagen, Dublin, or Rome, that difference can quietly reshape the monthly budget. A few cents per kilowatt hour sounds harmless until thousands of kilowatt hours pass through a home every year. Suddenly, the boring utility bill becomes one of America's better salesmen, and it never even asks for commission. Europe's higher energy prices have understandable causes. Taxes, network charges, energy policy, imported fuel exposure, and the disruption that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine all affected household costs differently across the continent. Those systems also support broader policy goals that many Europeans value, so this is not a simple contest over who designed the better country. But retirement is rarely lived at the level of policy theory. It is lived through recurring bills. That is why a long stay in the United States can change perceptions more effectively than any argument on television. During the enormous wave of international travel around the 2026 World Cup, many European visitors were seeing American daily life at street level rather than through a headline. The surprise was not that every American expense was cheap, because it certainly was not. The surprise was discovering how many ordinary costs were far more competitive than the image they had been given. And once retirement begins, predictable monthly expenses carry a different emotional weight. A household does not need to become dramatically cheaper to feel easier. It only needs enough small savings to stop every appliance from behaving like it has its own subscription fee. That may be one of America's least glamorous strengths, but for someone planning 20 years on a pension, glamour was never the point. Sometimes the country wins you over one utility bill at a time. Healthcare surprise. The part of American retirement that Europeans are usually warned about first is healthcare, which is exactly why the reality can become so interesting once they spend enough time looking past the scary headline. Europeans often arrive with a very simple picture in mind. American healthcare equals impossible bills. That fear is understandable because the US system is expensive and complicated. But retirement changes the conversation, especially once Medicare enters the picture. According to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Medicare covered more than 67 million people in 2024, most of them aged 65 and older. That means American retirement does not begin with every senior walking into a hospital carrying a credit card like they are entering a high-stakes casino. What surprises many outsiders is how much of the system is built around access, specialization, and speed. In the United Kingdom, the NHS remains one of the country's most valued institutions, yet waiting times have become a serious public concern. NHS England reported millions of people on elective treatment waiting lists in 2024. In Spain and Italy, public healthcare also offers broad coverage, but non-urgent specialist appointments can involve long waits depending on region and service. America approaches the same problem with a very different personality. It can be expensive, sometimes frustrating, and paperwork heavy, but it also gives insured retirees access to a huge network of specialists, diagnostic centers, urgent care clinics, pharmacies, outpatient facilities, and private practices. In many communities, healthcare looks less like one giant central doorway and more like a strip mall where every storefront has a different medical degree. That structure can feel strangely addictive to people used to waiting longer for routine specialist care. A knee problem can lead to an orthopedic clinic. A skin concern can go directly to dermatology. Blood work may be done in a separate lab nearby, and prescriptions can be picked up from a pharmacy that also sells birthday cards, cereal, and enough seasonal decorations to stage a small parade. The humor sits inside the contrast. In parts of Europe, healthcare is often admired because the system shields patients from major direct costs. In America, the surprise is how aggressively the system competes for convenience once insurance is in place. Appointments, portals, reminders, same-day clinics, telehealth, and specialized centers can make medical care feel almost consumerized. That word sounds commercial, but for retirees, convenience matters. At 70, nobody dreams about healthcare philosophy while sitting in a waiting room. They want the scan booked, the prescription filled, and somebody to answer the phone before the music loop reaches its fourth rotation. America still has serious weaknesses, especially around affordability for people without good coverage. That should never be ignored. But the stereotype that retirement in the United States means medical chaos misses a huge part of the picture. For millions of American seniors, the system is messy, expensive, highly specialized, surprisingly responsive, and far more structured than many Europeans expect. And that contradiction is exactly what makes it memorable. Social Life Reloaded retirement is supposed to slow life down, but in some parts of America, it appears to have missed that memo completely. The calendar fills up again, except now the meetings are pickleball at 10, trivia at 6, a neighborhood cookout on Friday, and someone named Bob is apparently running a surprisingly competitive bocce league. That social structure is one reason American retirement communities can feel so different from what many Europeans expect. The United States has more than 30,000 residential communities designed around older adults, and retirement living when senior housing, active adult developments, continuing care communities, and similar models are counted together across the market. Some of the best-known developments are enormous. The villages in Florida, for example, had a population above 80,000 in the 2020 US Census, with the surrounding retirement region continuing to grow rapidly afterward. At that scale, retirement stops resembling a quiet cul-de-sac and starts behaving like a small city whose residents happen to have much better control over their schedules. That is the real cultural difference worth paying attention to. In much of Europe, social life for older adults often grows organically from places that already exist. In Spain, plazas and cafes remain important gathering spaces. In Italy, neighborhood bars, church communities, and family networks still play a large role. In the Netherlands, compact towns and cycling culture make casual encounters easier because people naturally cross paths during ordinary errands. America took a more engineered route. Many retirement developments actively build social contact into the neighborhood itself. Clubhouses publish calendars. Sports leagues recruit beginners. Pools become meeting places. Craft rooms, card groups, dances, fitness classes, and volunteer projects create repeated opportunities to see the same faces until strangers slowly become familiar. That may sound like a tiny detail, but loneliness is one of the biggest problems facing older populations. The US Surgeon General's 2023 advisory on social connection warned that social isolation among older adults is associated with substantially higher risks of dementia, heart disease, and premature death. Suddenly, a Tuesday morning pickleball game looks less like retirees avoiding chores and more like surprisingly effective social infrastructure. There's also something very American about the lack of ceremony. You do not always need a lifelong connection to join in. Somebody moves in, signs up for a class, mispronounces 3 names, loses badly at cards, and by the following week has people waving from golf carts like they served together overseas. For retirees coming from cities such as Paris, Berlin, or Stockholm, that openness can feel refreshing because forming new friendships later in life is usually difficult. Long-established European communities can offer incredibly deep relationships, but depth often takes decades. American retirement culture sometimes tries to shorten the introduction. That may be the addictive part. The appeal is not endless entertainment because nobody needs to live inside a permanent cruise ship. It is the feeling that retirement does not automatically remove a person from everyday social life. There are still places to go, people expecting you, and reasons to put shoes on before noon. America has somehow turned retirement scheduling into something that resembles college orientation, except everyone already knows how to do laundry, and nobody is pretending to enjoy instant ramen. For someone worried that leaving work also means leaving behind routine, conversation, and belonging, that can be a powerful surprise. Retirement here can feel less like disappearing from the world and more like finally having enough time to show up for it. Sunday never closes. One of the fastest ways to understand why daily life in America can become strangely addictive is to try buying something on a Sunday evening after spending years in parts of Europe where Sunday still has the legal authority to tell commerce, come back tomorrow. Germany is the clearest example. Sunday trading remains heavily restricted, and most ordinary shops are closed except for places such as gas stations, bakeries during limited hours, shops in major train stations, airports, and a handful of specially approved shopping Sundays. Berlin, one of Europe's busiest capitals, generally allows only a limited number of official Sunday openings each year under its shop opening rules. That rhythm has cultural value because Sunday is protected as a day for rest, family, and social life. Then people encounter the American version of Sunday, where a pharmacy may still be filling prescriptions at night, the supermarket is busy, Home Depot is selling lumber, Costco looks like it is preparing for a minor national emergency, and someone is casually buying a television at 7:30 p.m. because apparently that became today's plan. That difference sounds trivial until retirement changes the meaning of time. When work no longer controls Monday through Friday, older adults stop organizing life around a traditional weekend. Tuesday afternoon can be grocery day. Thursday morning can be for errands. Sunday evening might simply be the moment somebody remembers they are out of coffee filters. America's extended retail hours fit that lifestyle unusually well, because the customer is allowed to decide when an errand happens instead of arranging the day around when the door will be unlocked. The scale of that convenience is easy to underestimate. The U.S. Census Bureau has counted more than 1 million retail establishments nationwide when storefront businesses across categories are considered, while the country also supports tens of thousands of pharmacies, supermarkets, home improvement stores, warehouse clubs, and convenience stores operating under widely varied schedules. Many are open 7 days a week, and some major pharmacy and grocery locations operate late into the night or around the clock. This is where the American habit becomes dangerously easy to like. The freedom is not really about shopping. Nobody moves across an ocean because they suddenly develop strong feelings about CVS. The pleasure comes from removing small negotiations from daily life. In Germany, Austria, and in parts of Switzerland, people often learn to plan ahead because Sunday closures are normal. That can create a pleasant weekly rhythm, but it also means forgetting milk on Saturday night becomes a small domestic plot twist. In much of the United States, forgetting milk simply means somebody grabs the car keys while muttering that they should have made a list. That difference grows more meaningful with age. A retiree may have medical appointments, changing energy levels, family visits, unexpected prescriptions, or days when leaving the house simply feels easier at 4 in the afternoon than at 10 in the morning. Flexible opening hours quietly give people permission to build errands around their bodies instead of forcing their bodies around the clock. There's something deeply American in that arrangement. The system assumes that one person's convenient time does not need to match everybody else's. Europe often protects the rhythm of the community. America frequently protects the freedom of the individual schedule. Neither idea is foolish, and both have real advantages. Yet once someone becomes accustomed to being able to pick up medicine, groceries, batteries, or a forgotten birthday card on a Sunday night, returning to a locked storefront can feel unexpectedly restrictive. That is how America gets under the skin, not with grand promises, but with the quiet luxury of deciding, I'll do it later, and discovering that later is still open. College never ends. There's a wonderfully American kind of retirement plan that sounds almost suspicious the first time you hear it. Finish a 40-year career, throw away the alarm clock, and then voluntarily walk back onto a college campus. Except this time, nobody cares about GPA. Across the United States, lifelong learning has grown into a real retirement culture rather than a niche hobby. The Osher Lifelong Learning Institute network alone operates through 125 universities and colleges around the country, offering courses primarily for adults over 50. These are not degree programs built around exams and career credentials. People show up because they finally have time to study Civil War history, astronomy, photography, literature, artificial intelligence, music, or whatever subject spent 30 years sitting behind work and family obligations. That changes the emotional meaning of retirement in a very American way. In Britain, the University of the Third Age has built an impressive learning network of its own, while France has long offered Université du Temps Libre and similar programs. Europe certainly does not stop learning at 65. The American twist is how frequently universities themselves become part of the retirement lifestyle, sometimes backed by state policies that make attending remarkably accessible. Florida, for example, allows residents aged 60 and older to audit certain state university courses without paying tuition when classroom space is available. Georgia provides eligible residents aged 62 and older the opportunity to enroll in public colleges and universities with tuition waived under state rules, although fees and admission requirements can still apply. Several other states have variations of senior tuition waivers or reduced cost enrollment. Try explaining that to someone who remembers university mainly as tuition bills, deadlines, and a professor saying, "This will be on the exam." At 68, American college can suddenly mean walking into a history lecture because the Roman Empire has been bothering you since 1974. The attraction runs deeper than free or discounted classes. Retirement removes one of education's least enjoyable ingredients: pressure. Nobody needs the course to improve a resume. Nobody is calculating whether Renaissance art has strong employment prospects. Learning returns to being something humans did before we turned it into line on LinkedIn. That freedom can become addictive. A retired engineer can study jazz. A former accountant can learn archaeology. Someone who spent decades answering emails can finally spend Tuesday morning discussing Hemingway with people who also have nowhere urgent to be afterward. There's even a quiet cultural optimism hiding inside this system. American retirement is often marketed as a period for reinvention, and lifelong learning gives that idea some substance. The message is surprisingly generous. Becoming older does not mean becoming finished. Europe has magnificent universities, centuries of academic tradition, and its own strong senior learning programs, so this is hardly a contest over who invented curiosity. What America does especially well is connect education with the idea of a second act. You finished your career, but apparently the syllabus still has chapters left. For retirees arriving with the familiar image of America as a country obsessed only with youth, productivity, and career success, that can be a lovely surprise. Somewhere between the lecture hall, the campus coffee shop, and a class full of 60-somethings debating history with the enthusiasm of freshmen, another version of America comes into view. It is a country where retirement can give you your time back, and then politely ask what you would like to learn with it. The $80 Passport America has a retirement perk that sounds almost made up. Turn 62, pay $80 once, and suddenly a huge piece of the country becomes dramatically easier to explore for the rest of your life. The National Park Service's America the Beautiful Senior Pass is available to U.S. citizens and permanent residents aged 62 and older for $80 as a lifetime pass. It covers entrance fees at thousands of federal recreation sites managed by agencies including the National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Reclamation, and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. At many locations, one pass can also cover passengers traveling with the pass holder in a private vehicle. That is where the idea becomes more interesting than the price tag. Retirement in America is often talked about as though it begins with a recliner and ends somewhere near a golf course. Yet federal policy quietly hands older residents something closer to a lifetime invitation to keep going places. Yellowstone can be one trip, Grand Canyon another, Acadia in Maine, Great Smoky Mountains on the Tennessee-North Carolina border, Joshua Tree in California, and countless federal forests, wildlife refuges, lake shores, and recreation areas can all become part of the same long-running habit. $80 barely covers dinner for two at a decent restaurant in many American cities. Here, it can buy years of, where should we go next? That kind of national access works differently from much of Europe. France, Italy, Spain, Germany, and the United Kingdom all have extraordinary protected landscapes, but admission systems are generally more fragmented because parks, historic sites, parking facilities, local authorities, and regional attractions operate under different rules. Britain's National Trust and English Heritage offer membership programs, while individual European countries run their own park and cultural site systems. Europe has no single equivalent that gives an older resident one lifetime pass tied to such a broad network of federally managed outdoor destinations across an entire nation. And that difference says something very American. The perk assumes retirement should still contain roadmaps with circles drawn around places people have never seen. It also removes a small psychological barrier that matters more than it seems. When entry has already been paid for, visiting a national park no longer has to feel like a major vacation purchase. A retired couple living near federal recreation land can return again and again, sometimes just for a morning walk, a picnic, bird watching, fishing, or the simple pleasure of sitting somewhere that does not have a checkout counter. The pass can also provide discounts on certain expanded amenity fees at participating federal sites, including some camping facilities. That turns a modest government benefit into something that can support an entire style of retirement built around short trips rather than expensive once-a-year vacations. There's an inside joke hiding here that Americans will understand immediately. The federal government is not exactly famous for making paperwork feel romantic, yet somehow it created an $80 card that can make a 65-year-old start looking at an atlas like a teenager planning summer break. For Europeans accustomed to thinking of America through television studios, political arguments, and downtown headlines, this is another side of the country that rarely fits into a dramatic news segment. America has built an enormous public land system and then made access unusually generous for older residents who finally have the time to use it. That may be the real luxury in retirement. After decades of asking when the next meeting starts, America gives people a pass that asks a much better question: where do you want to go tomorrow? Retirement gets a job. There's a peculiar moment in American retirement when somebody finally escapes 40 years of meetings, deadlines, supervisors, and Monday mornings, only to wake up a few months later and voluntarily ask, "So, where can I help?" That question explains an underrated part of American life. Volunteering is treated less like occasional charity and more like a second social role. According to AmeriCorps in the US Census Bureau, more than 75 million Americans formally volunteered through an organization between September 2022 and September 2023, contributing nearly 4.99 billion hours of service. Informal helping was even broader, with more than half of Americans reporting that they help neighbors in some way. For retirees, those numbers matter because leaving a career can create a strange vacuum. The paycheck stops, which is usually welcome. The alarm disappears, which is definitely welcome. But so do the hundreds of tiny interactions that made someone feel useful. A colleague asking for advice, a customer needing help, a problem landing on the desk because somebody trusted you to solve it. American volunteer culture has found a clever way to put that sense of usefulness back without putting the boss back. A retired teacher can tutor children at a library. A former accountant can help a nonprofit with taxes. Veterans volunteer with other veterans, retirees serve meals, maintain trails, support museums, coach youth teams, help at hospitals, or work through programs such as AmeriCorps Seniors. Nobody has to pretend they desperately missed quarterly performance reviews. That structure feels different from retirement culture in parts of Europe, although volunteering is certainly strong there too. The Netherlands, Sweden, and Denmark consistently show high civic participation, while Britain has a long tradition of charity shops and local voluntary organizations. In countries such as Italy and Spain, family networks often absorb more of the unpaid care older adults provide, especially assistance to grandchildren or relatives. America makes the volunteer role unusually visible. Libraries advertise openings. Churches organize teams, hospitals recruit helpers, animal shelters need walkers, national parks use volunteers, food banks depend on regular shifts. In many towns, asking a retiree what they do can still produce an answer with a schedule attached. There is something quietly addictive about that. A person can spend Tuesday morning helping someone learn English, Thursday afternoon sorting donations, and still have Friday completely free. It provides the satisfying part of having responsibilities while deleting the part where human resources wants to discuss your 5-year development plan. More importantly, the benefit runs both directions. Research summarized by the Corporation for National and Community Service has repeatedly linked volunteering among older adults with stronger social connection and better self-reported health, although volunteering itself cannot magically guarantee good health. The basic mechanism is easy to understand without turning it into a medical lecture. People have somewhere to go, somebody notices when they arrive, and their experience still has value. That is a powerful idea for anyone approaching retirement with the fear of becoming invisible. America's version of later life often carries an optimistic assumption that experience should not simply be stored away like Christmas decorations in the attic. Someone who spent 40 years learning how to teach, organize, repair, manage, cook, coach, or simply deal patiently with other humans still has something useful to give. The remarkable part is that nobody needs to give 40 hours a week anymore. Retirement in America can mean finally quitting your job while keeping the best part of work, being needed. And that may explain why some people discover that after the career ends, their calendar somehow starts filling itself again. Maybe that is the part of America many Europeans never expect to understand until they actually live it. Retirement here can feel less like slowing down and more like finally choosing what deserves your time. The headlines rarely capture those ordinary freedoms, but daily life does. So if you could spend your retirement anywhere in America, what would make you stay for good? Tell us in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more stories that reveal the America people rarely see from afar.